Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we uncover what really creates freedom in life and business, and we'll explore stories of those who've learned how to build wealth with purpose.
Welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Today, I'm joined by Brook De Vincenzi, founder of the Prosperity Multiplier, a faith-driven wealth strategist who brings fresh voice to the financial space, challenging the way that most people think about money. Brook, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Pleasure to be here with you today.
Great. Now, Brook, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey, who you are, and what kind of brought you into the work that you do today?
So my journey began like a lot of people looking to go to, college, going way back about 30 plus years for me. And all my friends had aspirations for college, and I really enjoyed working on cars. And I didn't see the need for me to go through college to get to where I wanted to be into a career. I have nothing against college, just to be a mechanic, it didn't really seem to connect the dots. So when my friends all, went off to college, I went to the #1 tech-rated school in the United States called UTI, Universal Technical Institute, out in Phoenix. And this is way back in, stretching the memory now, 1988, I believe. And graduated top of my class, came back as an ASE Master Certified Mechanic, very, very happy. And wasn't about a year and a half into that career when a manager, somebody I reported to, saw some things in me I didn't see in myself. And I never thought beyond, being a mechanic. And lo and behold, he offered me an opportunity to be a director of service, to basically run the dealership, everything but sales. And so Friday I clocked out as a mechanic. Monday I clocked in as the boss. And it was a eye-opening experience, 22-year-old managing people 2 and 3 times my age. It's kind of like trial by fire. Really enjoyed it. And I found a passion for doing things better, consulting type work, helping people become more efficient, delivering a better product, delivering a better experience. Well, fast forward a few years, and my lovely wife, Diva, at that time we had 3 children, and I realized that I was an absentee father. That although my career was doing well and I was benefiting from it, kids in private school, wife in a new house, I wasn't around. It wasn't unusual for me to basically leave in the morning when the household was asleep and arrive after dinner was served and the kids were in, bed. And it was tough. I didn't want to have kids just for the sake of having kids. I wanted to be a present father. But I ran into a trap a lot of people do. And that is, you make a certain amount of money and you spend up to that amount. So although I was successful, I wasn't in a situation where I could do something different without coming into some money. And my money was in equity in my primary dwelling. And so I talked to my wife and said, hey, I'm going to go into real estate. And so I picked up my family, I moved 3 hours away, and I started my second career, which was in the real estate profession. Became Rookie of the Year in the office that I was in. Within 3 years, I opened up my own real estate brokerage, multiple offices, thousands of transactions, lots of agents. I enjoyed making a difference in people's lives when it came to what for most people is the biggest purchase in life, right? A home. And I did that for the better part of almost 20 years. And I'm born and raised from California. And California, for those of you that might be watching this, don't know, highest tax state in the country. And at this time, I now had 5 kids. My youngest was graduating high school, and I wanted to put an environment together for them that was easier for them to make their own mark, buy their own house, live their own life. And I just didn't see that future in California. Tore me up a little bit because California is a great state. I love it. The climate, I mean, you can ski and be on the beach in the same day. It's a rare environment to kind of find that. And end of the day, I decided I'd relocated dozens of clients over the years to surrounding states. And we decided in 2020 to move out to Idaho. And 4 of my 5 adult children followed us. And that's when I was looking for my third and final career. I'd done real estate, done well in it, but I was looking for a different challenge. And so 5 years ago is when all the dots connected for me here in Idaho. And the Prosperity Multiplier became a thing.
Yeah. Well, it's a really great story when it comes down to as far as going, essentially your background includes the automotive, real estate. what was it really that made you kind of leave the real estate behind and moved into what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so sales has always been fulfilling for me. I enjoy working with people. I help them accomplish their goals. I feel good about what's being done, the service that I provide for people. To me, sales is about education. If you can teach somebody something, give them the information, then they can make a good decision, right? A decision that's best for them with their resources and their situation. But real estate tends to be more transactional. So I
Hmm.
can make a big impact on them, but it's for a transaction, it's for their house. And as much as it warms my heart to help that young couple get their first home or help the empty nesters scale down to from their family style home to their forever retirement home, it was again for me, it was more of a transactional environment. I excelled at it, but I wanted to do something that wasn't transactional, more transformational.
Hmm.
And so for me, it was being able to take my sales experience, the decades of experience that I had with business and with working with a consumer, but getting out of that transactional environment to where I can help somebody and make a bigger impact than just the sale in front of me. How I can help somebody go from where they're at to where they want to be. And so that's kind of what really led me to the career that I'm in today.
Yeah. No, it's great. Now you mentioned the prosperity multiplier. Can you actually kind of walk us through what that actually is and how this
Yeah.
concept came to life?
So I'd like to say I could take credit for doing everything on my own. I'm only here because I'm able to stand on the shoulders of some very successful people. The prosperity multiplier, I wouldn't say it's something new per se. The fact is, very successful, ultra wealthy people, institutional money, oftentimes implement these principles on their own. And what separates the average consumer from accessing the same type of a strategy or a system is you have to be ultra wealthy. There has to be a large volume of money being moved around. And that really just, quite frankly, puts it out of reach for the average consumer. The prosperity multiplier is more about execution and implementation than it is about the principles of the strategy itself. Taking what successful families have done for literally generations or institutional money for decades and packaging it and putting it in such a way that the average household now has access to tools and to support that they otherwise wouldn't have because they wouldn't have the minimum level of wealth to participate. And so the prosperity multiplier is all about rolling out something to the average consumer that has the means to put some money aside to make it grow and to bless them short term and long term, and to take advantage of principles that, again, otherwise you would have to be ultra wealthy. When I say ultra wealthy, we're talking not millionaire status, hundreds of millionaire or billionaire type status. So the prosperity multiplier is just basically taking these time-tested environments, truths that are out there already for, again, institutional money or large estate style families, and packaging it in such a way that it becomes accessible to the average person.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, I think what it comes down to when it comes down to the financial space, there's a lot of education or re-education that needs to happen because there's kind of the traditional way of doing things, and
Yeah,
there are things that have been around for a very long time. They were just replaced by things that don't work as well, but now they
yeah,
became the standard, right? So,
sure.
what are some of the kind of the early conversations or the results that you had that you're like going, hey, okay, this is really working well, what I've just learned. This is, really a way for me to help people in a real way and in a bigger way than I was doing before.
Yeah, so when you think about it, right, we've all typically, if you've come from a somewhat decent household, at the end of the day, we've got examples in our life. Not everybody had it. I was blessed to have a good example in my life. My dad was a hard worker. And he was a World War II vet, served in the Navy. He got out of the Navy and basically started a career at Lockheed. I guess today they call it Lockheed Martin. So he never talked about work. It was kind of secretive. But one of the things I did learn from my dad is that he worked a job to pay the bills.
Hmm.
And then he created a business to afford lifestyle for the family. So the example that was in front of me was the ability to work hard. But fast forward till today, and it doesn't even have to be today, it could be the last 10 years. Is working hard the answer? Is running that side hustle getting you where you want to be? The fact of the matter is, money is a resource. If you understand how to use it properly, it can take care of you for the rest of your life. And most of us, again, we're grown up on the idea that you can't afford something until you can pay cash for it. And it's a great concept. Nobody wants to be in debt. But there's a difference between being in debt, which in my opinion is being overextended on obligations that you cannot financially commit to, versus strategic leverage or intelligent finance, to where you always have more money in your right pocket than you do have debt in your left pocket. But understanding those principles, it's no longer becomes a saving and spending cycle, but an amassing and a compounding strategy. The best example I could even think of to maybe make this real for somebody watching us today, I had a very good friend, did very well in internet-based business. He went to buy a car, brand new Mercedes. He'd saved the money for it like he was taught to do. And as he was prepared to basically finalize his purchase, cut a check for the car, the salesperson says, "Well, aren't you interested to hear about our financing?" He was kind of shocked about that because he's thinking like, I've saved the money. Why do I care about what kind of a loan you want to offer me? But he entertained the salesperson. And the person said, with somebody of your credit level, you can come in with a minimal down payment and we'd be happy to sell this car to you for 0.9% financing for the next 60 months. He's like, wait a minute. I could actually finance this car and pay you less than 1% over the next 5 years. He was a smart guy. He understood money. This is where my lessons began. He's like, my money on average makes me better than 8+%. So why would I take money that's making me 8% to buy something that I could finance where it's only going to cost me less than 1%? The way he looked at it is if he kept his money working for him, he could pay that car off over time and he still would be financially better off than if he paid cash for it. And to me, that was a big life lesson I learned, and it reshaped or made me rethink what I had learned growing up about financial success and making money work for you.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story and illustrates how sometimes, we can't accept the advice that we're given. I mean, we've seen it all the time at the banks. They kind of maximize the payments on the mortgage, and then people go and get a car loan. And most of the times they get a car loan, it's not sitting at very low interest rates. A lot of times it's 6-7%, or maybe even more. And they're doing the opposite. Or when I was working with clients, a lot of them would come to me and say, "Hey, Daniel, I've got this $50,000. I want to invest it." Well, the first question I always ask, okay, do you have any debts? Do you have any credit cards? Oh, yeah, I've got a credit card here with $20,000 on it. I'm like going, pay off that first because I can't guarantee you 30% rate of return, right? Because it doesn't exist, right? And again, people don't tend to think about that. So that's a, great story and great illustration. Now, who are the kinds of people that you're working with most right now?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is I would love to be able to help everybody. And there are times when I do help out most anybody. But let's face facts. People have to be disciplined and good with money to begin with, to have resources to put to work. And that can happen with somebody who's very young in life or quite late in life. For me, I'm in the latter group. I didn't really grab onto this stuff until I was in my late 40s. So the reality is the person I might work with, as long as they've got about $60,000 of liquidity available, they can earmark for something to structure and build around, we can work with that. The average client that I'm working with nowadays, it's typically in the several $100,000 range. But here's the most important thing. If you do understand that you can live below your means, the next thing is, can you also maintain lifestyle? If you can live below your means, your money will eventually provide the lifestyle you want. I don't agree with a lot of what Dave Ramsey says, but I do agree with some of it. And he's very good about assigning responsibility to every dollar, not getting yourself overextended in debt. There are a lot of core values and beliefs he has that I agree with 110%. So bottom line is, for me, we're looking at that eventual outcome. People need to be able to have some money set aside. They're already living below their means. We can then work with that and launch them to the next successful chapter in their finances and future.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring a good point. I mean, when it comes to finances, always focus on the principles, right? Some of the opinions and views that somebody might have, like Dave Ramsey, may not be right, but hey, let's go and look at the principle. What's below that, right? Kind of that opinion, what made go and work. And that's kind of where it, what's the most important part. So when clients come to you, what are they usually, where are they at? What's their situation, financially and maybe even emotionally when it comes down to it? Because a lot of people are kind of worried. They don't know what to do. What's kind of
Sure.
weighing them down?
Well, when it comes to clients, I mean, everybody's got their own story, right? I look at people as like a thumbprint, right? Everybody's got their own unique
Mm,
identity. But there
I
is
like
some
that.
common denominators for most people, and I'd say they'd fall into pretty much two camps. The first camp is people that are really worried about the idea that life has gotten so expensive. Inflation's been out of control, government spending is just off the charts. Government doesn't make anything, right? The only way they balance a budget is spend less or tax more, and they haven't been really good at spending less. So who knows what's going to happen on future taxes. So bottom line is when it comes down to the people's biggest pains, number one, I'm going to say, is people that are worried that they're going to have more life than money. They've worked hard, they've set aside, and they're wondering, have I set aside enough? Am I going to have to work longer? Am I going to have to live on rice and beans, as Dave Ramsey would say, for the rest of my life? Or can I actually have a lifestyle that I enjoy in retirement? That's going to be the first camp. People that have basically saved some money, but they're really questioning if they're blessed with good health and genetics, are they going to have lifestyle for the remainder of their life? So outliving their money is probably one of the biggest concerns. And then there's the opposite end of the spectrum. People have done very good. Good careers, smart investments, maybe they even got lucky. But bottom line is they're in a great financial position. And for them, it's about asset preservation, protection, and how do I pass that along to the next generation? So those will probably be the two biggest types of people that I'm typically working with. People are looking to solve for that retirement planning, and then the other people are looking for generational planning, where they've done well and they look at their kids growing up, realizing that the landscape has changed. And if they've done well, can they do something to give their kids a softer landing? We're not talking about trust fund babies. Everybody wants to have their kids succeeding on their own, but having some resources available so they can focus on succeeding. So those are probably the two types of people that mostly, I'd say 90% of the time are the clientele I'm working with.
Yeah. Now, in your experience, where do most people kind of unknowingly leave a lot of money on a table per se? Like, things that they don't know, but when you have that conversation, you're able to reveal that to them.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to just really paying attention to your money, right? People oftentimes are asleep at the wheel. We can look back at 2008, right? 2008, most of us are old enough know, was the largest correction in the stock market since the Great Depression. So most people just wrote it out. Oh, dollar cost averaging, buy when the market is down. Well, that's great in your earning years. What if those are your retirement years? What if you're going to
Mm.
retire in 2008, 2009, 2010? So most people are doing just what they were traditionally taught when growing up, or going to some cookie cutter financial planners. And there's nothing wrong. At least they're being proactive in planning, but are they being proactive in actually what they're doing in implementation? I'd rather be proactive in a market than reactive.
Mm.
Reactive is what happened with everybody in 2008. When 2010 rolls around, the average retirement portfolio was down around 57%. $1 million in '08 became $430,000 in 2010. Again, if you're 35 years old, not a big deal. But if you're 55 or 60, it was a big issue. And I would rather not be involved in that environment. I would rather not want to be exposed to traditional equities, volatility, roller coaster, the ups and downs, the losses. So where I think people pretty much lose money is one of two ways. They're either not a good steward, shepherd of their resources, and they're just kind of on autopilot with either people managing things, or they're just doing their retirement planning. They're never look at balancing allocations. They're just putting money away every year. So that's going to be one thing. And the second thing is people that typically don't understand money, to where, again, just like myself, you were raised that if you want to buy a car, you save and then you spend. So people consistently are in a saving and spending cycle. Well, Albert Einstein said that the eighth wonder of the world is basically compounding interest. So The way I look at it is if you understand what money can do for you, and if you look at it as a resource and an asset, I never want to erase the compounding curve, which takes all traditional types of saving and spending and throws it out the window. So it is a little bit contradictory to normal principles, maybe controversial. I like to be a contrarian, but I also don't like to take on any undue risk or speculation. So again, save your money for 5 years, pay cash for a car, or what my friend found out, save your money for 5 years, go to buy for the car. You got the money to pay cash, take advantage of cheap money when the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring a great point. Now, one of the core principles is something that you call dual purposing, giving every dollar a dual mission. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, so when you understand, I mean, my friend kind of did it, right? He basically bought a car. His money was making 8+% at the time. So he's got a dollar in there that's working for him. And through the power of leverage or borrowing, he was able to create a brand new dollar. Now, that dollar came from Mercedes, not to give him a plug, but that's where the car he was going to buy. He got cheap financing from them, right? It's cheap money.
Yeah.
So I think if people were to actually stand back for a minute and look at the fact that what is my money doing for me? And is it worth taking from that bucket and putting it into something like a car, which as much as we all like that new car feeling, new car smell, comes with a pretty steep price. It's an asset that depreciates over time. So now you've taken a dollar that's working for you and you've bought something great. You don't have any debt. You don't have any monthly payments, but you also don't have that money working for you anymore. And you've secured an asset that is devaluing year in and year out. Successful people understand to keep the money working for them. And to use debt, I want to say debt, it's leverage. Let's think of it differently. Use leverage in such a way that you're never over leveraged. And if you have cheaper money available, put that money to work for you. Let your money take care of you long term. In an environment like that, you have $1 that works in two places. He found the benefits in buying that car through buying an asset that appreciated. What if you could put that dollar to work in an earning opportunity? What if you could get a 0.9% loan, which I can't, but if you get a 0.9% loan and put that money to work at 4% in a high yield checking or savings account, I'd borrow as much money as I could at 0.9% just to put it in a money market account. So dual purposing is about creating a dollar that works for you and a borrowed dollar that creates a second opportunity of earning potential or revenue stream. $1 working in two places, dual purposing your money.
Oh. No, it sounds really a great strategy. And again, it's a principle, right? Like it's not something that, you made up. It actually works when it comes down to it. So
Absolutely.
what does it look like when someone kind of activates the prosperity multiplier in their finances? Show us some examples of what that actually looks like.
Well, again, most people, again, are following traditional mindsets. And so the biggest example I could probably give you is the fact that when clients are working with me and my teams, at the end of the day, their money will always be growing, getting larger, and amassing and churning out interest. Whereas if you're in the traditional markets, you're always spending into it. Now, let's say you're one of those successful people that's working your whole life. You didn't need your 401k and now it's time to retire. Maybe you don't need the money. Well, there's this ugly thing that the government has called required minimum distributions. So whether you need the money or not, the government's going to make you spend it down so they can take their cut. Well, imagine you had a bucket of money that was able to grow and compound every year for the rest of your life. And you only access it with inexpensive leverage. You now have a principle where your engine, your source of funds, is indefinitely and perpetually compounding over time. That's one of the key principles in the prosperity multiplier. And what happens is all of a sudden people can now springboard into setting themselves up for future tax-free retirement income, asset preservation and protection. And for me, what's very passionate with 5 children and blessed with 1 grandchild so far, legacy and generational planning.
Yeah. So why do you think that, the idea of tax-free retirement still kind of feels out of reach or maybe even a little bit suspicious to a lot of people?
Well, I mean, if you look at the traditional buckets, right, every money's in a bucket today, right? It's going to be the tax me later bucket, which you're qualified in government programs where the money hasn't been taxed. And some point there'll be distribution, some point taxation. So tax deferred. Then there's the tax me now bucket. In the tax me now bucket, that's people's paychecks, right? Government gets their slice off the top, you get the net, and away you go. And that third bucket, that's the tricky one. That's the tax me never bucket, right? And most people's experiences are going to be around the Roth environment. But let's face it, most of my clients are very successful. And if you make a certain amount of money, well, the Roth isn't even an option anymore. And when it is an option, you can only put a little bit of your fruits into that environment. So if we can focus on the tax me never bucket, then at the end of the day, we can provide the tax-free retirement planning, tax-free revenue access. And so bottom line is, a lot of people do think it's too good to be true because it's not the norm. It's not common. It's not what they are learning in economics. It's not what your traditional financial advisor is teaching them. Most everybody, like myself growing up, it's all about living below your means, saving your money, and then at some point living off of that money. They have a 4% rule in financial planning. Draw your assets down at 4%. Well, if you're involved in the stock market, last 3 years have been great. Your portfolio has grown a lot more than 4%. But if you're in the wrong market and the market's correcting, which on average it does about 2.7 out of every 10 years, that means there's going to be years of distribution where you're taking actually the seed money out, right? Your engine is becoming smaller. So if we can actually facilitate building an engine for you that over time is just going to keep getting larger and more dynamic, you never have to worry about what's going on in the market and will I have money next year? And we use vehicles that allow us access to tax-free revenue sources.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Now, what has been the most kind of meaningful transformation that you've seen working with clients, right? So, I mean, you meet them where they've got these challenges and you educate them, you show them, what some of the options are. Can you just share a story with a client that you had that was a truly transformation? I'm sure there's many of them. So if you can choose one.
I was going to say, the funny thing is I find myself, even 5 years in now, sometimes I can't sleep at night. Not because I'm worried, not because did I do the right thing for the client? It's just because I am so darn excited in what the prosperity multiplier has positively influenced people on so many different levels. So when you say, can you tell me about one person? I can tell you about dozens, but I will share a couple. I work with a guy, he's an orthodontist, dentist, done very well for himself. And he's a planner. In his own words, he would tell you that he was a planner. But if he was asked, now he's also about 10 years away from retirement, what's your plan for retirement? He wouldn't have an answer. He doesn't know or did not know what that was going to look like for him. He had some good resources, and we basically repurposed those resources, put them to work in the prosperity multiplier. Bottom line is we showed him what his future before the prosperity multiplier looked like, and now the journey he's embarked on and where he's going. For the first time in his life, if somebody were to ask him what your plan for retirement is, he actually has an answer, and he sleeps good at night. So much so that he's one of the biggest advocates for what it is that I do. He's sharing it with his employees, with family, with friends. It's just been revolutionary for him. So that's somebody who had some resources but didn't have a plan. Well, what about somebody who did really well? I have another client. I don't want to ever name names, keep the anonymity, but had a client that did very well in an investment, invested in something about 16 years ago. He put 20,000 in and forgot about it. I wish I was this guy. 16 years ago, throws 20,000 into something, and today it's worth over $10 million.
Wow.
He never took the profit off the table. He just watched it. And yes, it's an equity, but it just grew and it grew and it grew. He wound up doing very well in his career. So all of his investments just continue to blossom. And most all of this gentleman's money is actually in the market, not real estate, not business opportunities, highly liquid, very subject to market volatility. And what his interest was is planning for his 2 kids. So now we can create an environment that's very tax friendly, where the money's going to provide after him and his wife are gone. And in fact, with the nest egg that he has, he can set up a generational plan and is in the process of doing so, where he can take care of the next several generations based on what he's done. I want to come, if I got time, I'd love to give you a third
Yeah,
example.
go do another one.
I want to go to the other end of the spectrum. Guy's actively in retirement, and he's one of the people that followed the traditional mindset. Save, save, save until you're retiring and spend, spend, spend. And he's a couple of years into retirement, and he realized with his financial planners and his team at the time that based on his distribution, which was modest, it was only $2,000 a month, but based on the uncertainty of the market and based on average rates of return for him, he was actually going to be out of money anywhere within 11 to 15 years.
Hmm.
And his parents were very healthy. So he did have a very real world fear of basically outliving his money. And what was going to happen is he going to have to rely on his kids. He was very good at living below his means. Bottom line is his nest egg wasn't as large to where he could count on those distributions for as long as he might potentially live.
Hmm.
So he brought what resources he had to the table. I'm blessed with a significant team of associates I work with as well. I believe that teammanship, bringing a successful team into the picture where I run point, but I understand I can't do everything. And at the end of the day, I have great partners around me doing many, many different things. But we were able to take his resources that we're going to deplete and instantly deliver his $2,000 a month by just reshaping what he was doing. It included the Prosperity Multiplier and a couple of different spokes to the wheel, you could say. So we had him structured in a couple of our opportunities to where now by his third year and his fourth year and his fifth year and years moving forward, that money was going to grow for him. He was worried about drawing a finite amount of money, what inflation would look like, and his money running out. Now he's comfortable. He doesn't worry about the money coming in, and he sees the money growing over time. He knows that in his future, he's going to have a resource there for him no matter how long he lives and something to pass to the next generation.
Oh, that's a really, really great stories that you shared. And what it comes down to with the last one, teamwork is the dream work, right? I mean, there's a lot to say to that. So you've mentioned like
Absolutely.
you've mentioned legacy. What does what does that really mean to you when you're helping your clients and maybe even on a personal level? Like what does legacy really mean to you?
So again, I use the example of my dad to where he could, show me good work ethic, but at the end of his life, there wasn't much that was there available for the next
Mm.
generation. And not everybody's thinking about their kids, but even if you are single or you don't have kids, certainly there's things you care about. Charities, organizations, an alma mater. If you could put something in motion that's going to benefit, in my experience with 5 children, I'm very family centric, and most of my clients are, not all. But if I can do something to make it easier for them to get established in life, well, why wouldn't I want to do that? And it doesn't have to come at an either or cost. Either I have a great retirement and forget about the kids, or they have great lifestyle and forget about my retirement. I'm able to accomplish both through the prosperity multiplier. And so for me, what it means is my kids are taught great work ethic. There's a lot of coaching that happens in my family. So I want everybody to achieve, everybody to stretch, everybody to work. I just want them to be able to do that without the oppressive nature of living wage and cost of living today. Where bottom line is, it's extremely difficult. I bought my first house in 1997. I know everybody's got their own markets, but in 1997, I bought a home in Gilroy, California. It was a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 2,500 square feet. Set me back about $285,000. That house today is worth well over $1 million.
Mm.
Last I checked, people's wages haven't increased fourfold in that same amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's outside of where I was at the Silicon Valley, Santa Clara, Cupertino. Those houses, my dad going all the way back to 1959 when he bought his house for basically, I want to say at the time it was $37,000 or $17,000, very low. That home today is worth over $3 million.
Wow.
And 20 years ago, it was worth over $1 million. So how can our kids possibly plug into the same kind of lifestyle we had? It's no doubt that kids are living longer at home. waiting longer to get married, and waiting longer to make that first home purchase? Is it because they're choosing to do that, or because the option's not on the table? So anything
Yeah.
I can do to create a leg up for my kids that are willing to work for it, I'm going to do my part in setting them up for success financially. And for me, again, I've been blessed with one grandchild. We're already planning for the second and the third generation at this point.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point. So, you know what, if excuse me, if someone is curious about the prosperity multiplier, but not really don't know, not ready to talk, what's the first step that they can take?
Well, the way I look at it, maybe this isn't going to be the answer you're looking for. If they're curious, why not meet with me? Why not take some time? You're already on a journey of discovery. And the way I look at it is I've never looked at myself as a salesperson. I'm a consultant. I'm an advisor. Most all of my clientele actually have a personal relationship to boot. Not everybody's looking for that, but I treat everybody like family at the end of the day.
Mm.
And ultimately, what it comes down to is if you have taken the time and the energy to go online, to Google, to read a book, to look through some articles, subscribe to a financial podcast. Well, at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're curious and you're looking to solve for something.
Mm.
So what I can tell you is when you're in Zoom with me, it has nothing to do with me trying to sell you something. I'm going to educate you. I'm going to identify resources. I'm going to identify goals. At the end of the day, I'm going to give you an education. Worst thing it's going to cost you at the end of the day is some time. Bottom line is, I believe that everybody can make great decisions. The reason why most people don't make great decisions is because they lack the information.
Mm.
So there's no harm in getting the information so you can make a decision that's best for you, your financial goals, your family.
Yeah. I guess you bring the point again, we were talking about that, you know, teamwork creates a dream work. You know, you want to be a team member, you want to partner up with your clients and really help them. And it's not about really trying to sell them a financial product.
Nope.
It's about really educating them and showing them what the options are and then helping them to make decision. What is the next best decision for them? So that's a great point that you bring. Now, as we're closing this, I've got four. I call them the rapid fire questions.
Uh-oh.
No, they're pretty light. So, what's your favorite book that really shaped your way of thinking?
Well, I unfortunately coughed. I got a head cold I'm getting over. What was the first question?
Yeah. Your favorite book that shapes your, you know, that has shaped your thinking.
Early on, I mentioned I was a mechanic, and then somebody saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and I wound up in management oversight and sales. And if you go way back, I don't read as much as I used to. I wish I did or do. But historically, I read a lot. It was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just a great book. It transcends generations. It's just a great heartfelt message for how to connect with people, how to make people feel good once they're done talking with you and leaving the room. Not because they're like, great, I don't have to talk to this guy anymore, but you were engaged, you were attentive, and you made them feel better about themselves. So when they left, there was a spring in their step. They enjoyed the conversation. They wanted to get back and talk to you again in a future date. So that's probably the number one book for me.
Great book. And again, it's all based on principles that we were talking
Yeah.
about when it comes down
Yeah.
to it. So, what's a morning routine or habit that you can't live without?
Guy. But what I can tell you is I'm a disciplined person.
Hmm.
So for me, it means getting a jump on my day.
Yeah.
I currently reside in Idaho, so I'm in mountain time, but I got clients all over the country. And oftentimes I start my day on the East Coast. So that means they're 2 hours ahead of me. So
Hmm.
by nature and discipline, I get out of bed early. I will say what starts off every day might not be what you're looking to have as an answer. I get myself a strong triple shot coffee every morning because I need the caffeine because I'm not a morning person, but I take what I do seriously. And so the bottom line is I get out of bed before the crack of dawn. I get a coffee in me. I get set up in my office, and I like to take 15 minutes out of every day to run through what's going on in my day. So that 15-minute block of time is instrumental in having a successful day for me.
Yeah, no, that's good. Hey, coffee is one of the top answers that we're getting here, so you're
The
good.
ninth wonder of the world.
One bucket list that you have not done yet.
So me and my wife want to do a lot more traveling. I have
Mm,
been blessed to have seen several places, been on different continents, but I am a travel bug. My parents blessed us with travel when we were younger. I've been able to do that with my 5 kids, but we're in a new chapter of life. Me and my wife do a lot of traveling, but we want to include the kids and the grandkids.
mm,
And so for us in 2026 and beyond, it's about taking an annual generational family trip, being globetrotters, just to give the kids the experience, my grandkid the experience, exposed to different cultures, different opportunities. So that is a bucket list item that will be checked off next year and become part of our regular routine.
yeah, no, that's a great one. Now, what's a surprising hobby or interest that really recharges you?
Believe it or not, I've been a lifelong martial artist. So it
Mm,
started with karate at the age of 13. Got busy starting a family. When my kids got a little bit older, they wanted to get into martial arts, and I got bit all over again. So I have a black belt in Kenpo as a
wow.
foundation. I'm a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I just rehabbed a torn rotator cuff, not from Jiu-Jitsu. I tore one 10 years ago doing that. But this one was just use over time. So hopefully within the next 4 to 6 months, I'll be back on the mat. I just love nowadays Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think it's not only a great activity, but great relationships, great to keep you in shape. There's just so many benefits. And when I walk off the mat, I'm dog tired, but I'm on an endorphin rush like nothing else. And so for me,
Yeah.
I've missed it because of my rehab. I look forward to hopefully getting back on the mat, and most people would not know that I've been a lifelong martial artist.
No, that's a great one. So I've got one last question. I call it the hot one. Fast forward to the end of your life and imagine that everyone forgot everything that you ever taught them or showed them. But they do have the opportunity to just remember that one last message, the most important message. What would you want that to be from you?
Be a good steward.
Mm,
Be a good steward to what anything and everything in life blesses you. I'm human. I've had my ups and downs. I've had financial hardfall growing up in the last 30 years with 5 kids. I mean, trust me, there have been times where I had pancakes for dinner because at the end of the day, my kids were like, wow, breakfast for dinner. It was my way of saying, honey, we're a little broke right now. Meat's going to be lean for a while.
yeah,
The way I got out of that cycle for myself personally, and what even opened up the opportunities for the prosperity multiplier, is knowing that no matter where you're at in life, live below your means and put your money to work. I don't
mm,
care if you make 50,000 a year or 5 million a year. That same principle will take care of you and generations to come forevermore. So
mm.
stewardship to me of your finances is very important. Being intentional with your money.
Yeah, you bring a great point. And often when it comes down to finances, it's not what's coming in is the problem, it's what's going out. Right? And I think
I've
that's
met I've met a lot of people that are multi-millionaires that are one event away from being paupers again.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, being money disciplined is extremely important.
Yeah, no, that's great. Wow, what a powerful and perspective shifting conversation, Brooke. Thank you for sharing your journey. Where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
Well, we can go to www.prosperitymultiplier.com. It's a website that's going to be up and informational here within the next 30 days where I'm going to consolidate all these resources where people can find me. You can also, happy to take a phone call from anybody out there that wants to talk.
Mm.
My cell phone, so you got a direct line to me, is area code 916-847-5356. As more content becomes available on the Prosperity Multiplier, there will be several resources there to engage in even before coming to meet with me in a Zoom room.
Perfect. So if you're listening, be sure to check out Brooke's website and all the tools that he has created to help you to really design meaningful, not only retirement, but really financial legacy that you can go and build. Brooke, thank you again for your time and your message. And remember, making life less taxing isn't just about money, it's about freedom, clarity, and purpose. Keep building wealth, keep protecting your legacy, and keep living the untaxable lifestyle. We'll see you again next time on the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Thank you again, Brooke.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been great being with you here today.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at makelifalesstaxingpodcast.com.